Today I'm going to do a quick run through of how I light my forge. So this here is my forge. I've talked about it in another video because this is a side blast water cooled forge. So you can see the tuya, whatever you want to call it there, and that goes through a tank of water which is behind this piece of steel, and then the tuya itself is actually surrounded by water, and so it is water cooled, which means that this steel isn't going to burn. All that a forge is just a reaction between carbon and oxygen. So carbon obviously comes from the coal and the oxygen is coming from the air. But to increase the temperature, to get to the temperatures that we need to actually heat steel up and be able to move it when it's hot, we need the fan, which I've got behind the forge, and the fan forces oxygen into the forge, and therefore there's more reactants, and so the reaction between the carbon and the oxygen is happening at a much quicker rate, and therefore it's giving off more heat. That's all it is. It's really simple if you actually think about it. It's just carbon being burned and oxygen being pushed into the fire to accelerate the reaction. However, coal or coke is not pure carbon. Ideally, coke is pure carbon, but it never is, and so you always get clinker forming. So clinker is all of the impurities in coal which sort of sinks down. In a side blast forge, you can let it sink down into the bottom of your fire. On a bottom blast, you have to be a bit more careful that you don't just block up your air holes. But the clinker doesn't burn, so we have to get it out, which is what I'm doing now. I'm getting and cleaning the fire out so that I can then light a new fire without having any of yesterday's clinker left in the forge. So I actually burn a mixture of coal and coke. I find that this is the best fuel to actually burn in the forge. Obviously, you want to try and be burning pure coke, because it is going to be healthier. Coal gives off some nasty fumes, whereas coke is a bit more refined. Basically, coke is baked coal. That's sort of a good way to describe it. It's already been burned in a way, so that the clinker and the impurities have been baked off, and so it should be a purer form of coal. When you burn coal, you actually create coke. So this is a piece of yesterday's coal, which has coked over. You can see the difference between the two. This one it's much lighter, and it sort of looks a bit fluffy. You know, it's a bit like a marshmallow, a burnt marshmallow. But as I said, I burn both coke and coal, and I find that is the best combination for the clinker. If I burn just coke, which is this smaller stuff, I find that the clinker is really sticky, and it doesn't sink to the bottom. Whereas just adding half a shovelful of normal coal, the clinker behaves and sinks to the bottom of the fire, and it's so much better. And I don't fully understand why that is, but I find that it is just the best combination to be burning. There's sort of 4 components to lighting the forge. The first is your tinder, which in my case is newspaper. You want to scrunch your newspaper up nice and tight so you can get as much tinder in there as possible. You've then got wood, and I do like to use some kindling just to take the flame from the tinder. I have seen people just light a forge with newspaper, but I think it's better to just put a bit of wood in there. You're always going to get a better flame off wood than tinder. You're going to get a hotter and longer lasting flame. And a key thing to do with your kindling is make it nice and thin. And so there are 2 reasons why I do that. This is about sort of half a finger width. And it's so that it easily takes the flame off the tinder, but it then burns off quickly, and you're not left with big chunks of wood in your fire when you're trying to heat steel up. The third component is yesterday's coked over coal, or sort of baked coal, you know, the coal that was in the fire when you turned off the fan and let it cool down. And so this is going to take a flame really well compared with green coal, and green coal is coal new to the fire. when you're lighting the forge, the best thing to do is to get a nice wood fire first. So light the tinder, let the wood catch and begin to burn, and then add your coal. I find as well that coal that is coked over takes a flame much easier than coke that is baked, if you know what I mean. So the actual coked over coal is going to light so much easier than coke that was just in the fire. So I'll simply just light the tinder, and again I just want to let the fire burn. I don't want to turn the fan on at this moment, you know, I just want to let it catch and let the wood catch, and then we can add the coal and turn the fan on. We're beginning to get a bit of a good flame from the wood now, so I can edge the sides in. And you sort of want to leave a section in the middle of the fire where the flames can shoot out. So you don't want to completely block it up with coal. And I'll add my little special pieces of coked over coal. And now I'll turn the fan on. And there you go, you've now got a usable fire, and you saw that I added some extra coke and coal around the sides, and that's something, again, sort of from a fire maintenance point of view, always add coal to the back, new coal, green coal to the back of the fire, so that can gradually bake from the heat in the forge in the middle, and then bring those coals in gradually, so that you're not just adding cold coke to the fire, as that can explode. If you add coke straight onto the forge and it's got a little bit of moisture in, the moisture will vaporize. I did a pressure thing on this, a video on pressure, and the coke can blow up. So don't just add it straight away. You're also going to get a really smoky fire if you just add coke straight on top. So put it on the edges, let it bake, and gradually bring it into the fire. So there we are, that's it. It's just a quick video for today about the forge. Hopefully you've learned something about how I light my forge, but also maybe a bit about fire maintenance and how a forge actually works, how the reaction works between the carbon and the oxygen, and how we actually heat steel up. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.